In today's data centers, our applications are just everywhere. We've got them on physical servers and VMs, even running in containers. And that's great, but the problem is the network policies that are supposed to connect all of them are often totally siloed. It just creates this mess of complexity and, honestly, chaos. So today, we're going to dive into how Cisco's application-centric infrastructure, you'll hear me call it ACI, promises to bring all of that together with a single, unified network policy for everything. So here's the core problem we're all facing, right? Your physical network team has their set of tools and policies. Meanwhile, your virtualization team, they've got a completely different set. And when these two worlds don't speak the same language perfectly, what do you get? You get complexity, tons of manual configuration, and a much higher risk of making a mistake. The big question is, how do you finally bridge that gap?
All right, here's our game plan. We're going to start with the big vision, one policy to rule both the physical and the virtual worlds. Then we'll get into the secret sauce, the VMM domain. We'll look at how ACI and hypervisors work together to automate policy, see how this all extends to containers, and finally, wrap it up by looking at what this unified advantage really means for you and your whole operation.
So let's kick things off with the fundamental promise of ACI. The whole goal here is to build one single intelligent network fabric that looks at every application endpoint the exact same way. It doesn't matter if it's a physical server or a virtual machine. From a policy point of view, that boundary between them, it just completely dissolves.
Now, ACI pulls this off through three really key principles. First up is transparent integration. This means it's designed to work with the hypervisors and tools your teams already know and love. Second, and this is huge, there's no compromise on performance. This simplicity doesn't cost you speed. It's built for line rate forwarding. And, most importantly, it creates a unified policy model. It literally creates a common language for your physical and virtual teams to speak.
This quote right here really gets to the heart of the whole philosophy. A virtual machine is treated as a first-class citizen. What does that mean? It means in the eyes of the ACI fabric, a VM is just another endpoint. It's identical to a bare metal server, and it gets the exact same tough policy enforcement. No exceptions.
Okay, so how does ACI actually build this bridge between the physical and virtual worlds? Well, the answer lies in this really foundational component called the Virtual Machine Manager domain, or, as we'll call it, the VMM domain. I want you to think of the VMM domain as the official handshake between ACI's brain, which is the APIC controller, and the virtualization platform's brain, like VMware's vCenter. It's basically a logical container where you define how these two powerhouse systems are going to talk to each other. What credentials they'll use, what resources they can share, and which policies apply. So in practice, its job is really threefold. First, it's the main channel for policy coordination. All the network rules you define in ACI flow right through it. Second, it's what enables auto-detection. So when a new VM gets spun up, boom, the ACI fabric knows about it instantly. And third, it handles the policy binding, attaching the correct network and security rules directly to that virtual machine's network interface.
And this is the real transformation. We're moving away from that old world where a server admin has to file a ticket, wait, and then ask the network admin to configure a VLAN and a port. The VMM domain just automates that entire process. That means we get rid of the back and forth, the manual checklists, and the risk of human error. It allows applications to get the network services they need right away and accurately.
So this brings us to the relationship between the two main controllers. And I want to be clear, this is not a takeover by the network team, it's a genuine partnership. So let's break down exactly who does what. Okay, here's a really great way to think about this. Imagine the APIC is your city planner. It's the one with the master blueprint, right? It designs the entire city, all the roads, the zoning laws, the security perimeters, for the whole shebang. Now the VMM controllers say your vCenter, that's the site manager. Its job is to actually build the houses, creating, moving, and deleting your VMs. And then it just connects them to the roads the city planner already designed. See the difference? APIC doesn't create the VMs, but it makes darn sure that the second a VM pops into existence, it's instantly on the right network with the right policies. It all just happens automatically. And this partnership, it's like a constant conversation. The VMM controller on the right is always telling APIC, hey, a new VM just started up on this host. APIC then looks at its central policy and tells the physical network, the leaf switches, and the virtual switch inside the hypervisor exactly how to handle that VM's traffic. It's a totally closed-loop, automated system. So we've got the who and the what down. Now let's get into the how.
How exactly are these network policies created and pushed out automatically? What's the magic here? Well, the mechanism behind all this automation is both incredibly simple and really powerful. Inside ACI, you define a policy container called an endpoint group, or an EPG. The second you link that EPG to your VMware VMM domain, APIC reaches right into vCenter and automatically creates a port group with the exact same name. And that's it. The bridge is built, just like that. Let's just walk through the whole workflow from start to finish. First, APIC connects to vCenter and creates the integrated distributed switch for the fabric. Easy enough. Next, the network admin just associates their application EPGs with that domain. Instantly, APIC creates all the matching port groups inside vCenter. Now, the virtualization admin, they just see these new policy-ready port groups appear, and they can assign them to their VMs just like they always have. The moment they do, APIC pushes the final policy down to the hardware. What's the result? Zero manual network configuration for the virtualization team. Zero. Now, this model is obviously super powerful for virtual machines, but we all know modern applications are being built more and more on containers. So the question is, does this unified policy model extend to them too? And the answer is a resounding yes.
You see, this integration isn't just locked into one platform. ACI supports all the major VMMs, like vCenter and SCVMM, but it also extends this exact same model to container orchestrators like Kubernetes and OpenShift. The very same VMM domain concept applies, giving you one single consistent way to manage policy for both your VMs and your containers.
And this is the real strategic advantage. You don't need one tool and one set of policies for your traditional apps, and then a completely different set for your modern cloud-native stuff. You can actually have a VM-based web server talking to a containerized database, and the traffic between them is secured by a single ACI contract, all managed from one central place. It's pretty incredible. Okay, let's bring it all home. We've gone through the architecture and the workflow. Now let's talk about the real-world impact. What does this unified approach actually do for the business? Well, the benefits are really clear. Operationally, you're getting a single policy model, automatic discovery, and a radically simplified configuration. For security and compliance, that policy is now totally consistent, and it actually follows the workload wherever it goes, even during a vMotion. This gives you true end-to-end visibility. And the ultimate business impact? You're deploying applications in their network services way faster and more safely than you ever could before.
And this brings us to the ideal end state, a single source of truth for your entire network. The ACI fabric, which you see here in this spine and leaf topology, now has visibility all the way from the core of the network out to the individual virtual endpoints running on the servers. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter where an endpoint lives, physical or virtual. The policy is defined once, centrally, and enforced consistently everywhere.
And ultimately, that's what this is all about. It's about breaking down those silos between teams and technologies. When you create a single source of truth for the network, you're creating a data center that's more agile, more secure, and frankly, just a lot easier to manage. So the real question this leaves us with is this. As our applications become even more distributed, can any of us really afford to keep managing our physical and virtual worlds separately?